We are in line for the Tower of London tour.
We must have lipstick.
Don't have lipstick. Alyssa's running a little slow this morning.
Sleepy.
Yeah,
We're up till midnight.
Yeah, early morning. So this is the front of the tower.
We're getting a beef eater tour. Good morning.
Hello there.
Did you hear that? He said hello there.
This ought to be good.
Oh yeah.
Come on then, folks. Come on in. Get this over with. Come on. Right in.
Get
Right
this
round. Can't move my neck
Oh
much
my
in
god,
this.
I want his hat.
Don't normally wear this. We're wearing this today because we have a gun salute for the Royal Baby this afternoon. So, yeah, cheers. We'll wait till tomorrow, so I'm off. Fortunately, she had the baby yesterday. Come on in. Come right in. Don't be shy. Right in. Come on, come right in. First things first, welcome to Her Majesty's Royal Palace and Fortress, the Tower of London. My name is Yeoman Warder Matt Prime. I'm one of the 37 Yeoman Warders that has the honour to live and work here at the Royal Palace. Today I'm going to be your guide. What we're going to do is go around the tower. I will point out some of the more historic buildings, then I will tell you a little bit about their history. Well, our story here goes way back to the year 1066, when William, the Duke of Normandy, William the Conqueror, defeated the Anglo-Saxon King Harold at the Battle of Hastings. Now he had the cheek and the temerity to declare himself King William I of England on Christmas Day of that year, but he had a problem on his hands, big one. The Anglo-Saxon people of England hated him. They kept rebelling against him. Up and down, the country went, putting down rebellions. Now he did a terrible thing. Went to the north of England and he carried out what's known as the harrying of the north. He killed thousands and thousands of Englishmen and he wiped hundreds of villages off the map. Now he came back down to the south of England. He didn't want to harry the south of England for two reasons. One, all the money and commerce was based here in the south. Second, more obvious reason, is that the people in the south of England are a lot nicer than the people from the north. That's hard. Commercial early on. So, he decided he was going to impress and overawe the citizens of London. To do that, he built his first royal palace and fortress. Look behind you and up there, you'll see the magnificent sight, Union Jack flagpole, 203 of the turret, glistening in the sun. That is the original Tower of London. We are going to have a perfect view of that a little bit later on in the tour. So, over the next few hundred years, the place just got bigger and bigger. In 1220, they built 13 more towers in a circle, and they joined them up with a wall. We now call that the inner wall, because in 1280, they built 6 south-facing towers, 2 north-facing gun emplacements, and joined those up with a wall. The outer wall, that's the wall you see there behind you. The very last piece of the defensive jigsaw was the moat where we're standing now. It is very simply a big old ditch full of water. But it was designed by a genius. He designed it so that twice a day, at high tide, the River Thames would flood in, scouring round and back out. That was important. There was no sewage system in the tower. All the human excrement and rubbish went over the walls into the moat. Twice a day, happy days, flushed out into the Thames. This worked perfectly for 500 years. Unfortunately, the good people of Houndsditch and Shoreditch dug their ditches into the moat, and then they started chucking all the rubbish and dead dogs into it, and eventually it became stagnant. People started to die of disease, typhoid, etc. So in 1843, Queen Victoria gave permission for the moat to be filled in. It was filled in with thousands of tons of sand, shingle and crushed oyster shells from Billingsgate Fish Market next door. It was about 15 feet deeper than the level you're standing on today. This place as well has been used for many, many things over those hundreds of years. It was a secure storeroom. Prior to 1303, the crown jewels and the royal regalia of England were kept down in Westminster Abbey. They were looked after by a set of monks. In 1303, it was discovered the monks were plotting to steal some of the jewels and sell them off. The abbot in charge was skinned alive, and his skin was nailed to the door of Westminster Abbey as a warning.
Jesus.
Then the jewels were moved here in 1303. They're still here today. I'm going to show you exactly where you can see them a little bit later. This was an armoury. There was enough arms, armour and weapons here to equip an army of 100,000 men. This was also the Royal Menagerie Zoo. That was the King and Queen's personal collection of exotic animals and beasts. Here at the tower there's lions, tigers, elephants, polar bears, brown bears, ostriches, monkeys, wolves, snakes, you name it, all kept here for the King and Queen's personal pleasure. Some King or Queens liked them more than others. James I, particularly cruel man, he had a platform built above the cages of the lions and the tigers, so him and his friends could eat dinner while the servants chucked live dogs and cats over the wall for the lions and the tigers to rip apart. Terrible thing. By 1832, it had become obvious it was not correct to keep animals here in a fortress. They were taken to the centre of town, to Regent's Park, where they formed a brand new zoo. It's called London Zoo. It's still there to this very day. But this place really became famous for something it was never ever designed for. It's a fortress. A fortress is very simply a huge building that's designed to stop all the bad people who live out there getting inside there. Simple. It was never designed to stop all the bad people who were living in there getting out there. It was never designed as a prison. It became a prison, of course. It became probably the most famous prison complex in the whole world. Just to be told you're going to be sent to the tower was usually enough to elicit an immediate confession of all your sins. Such was its fearsome reputation. And let's now think about prisoners, because it was handy for prisoners. If you look to the top of the hill, you see beautiful, elaborate marble building sticking up and some green trees to the right. In between those two is an open area. It's called Trinity Gardens. It was the first official public execution site. Between 1381 and 1747, 75 men of noble birth lost their heads up there by means of the block and the axe. Let's imagine a scene on a day of execution. Now, London today is an amazing city, there's no doubt. Lots of things to do. That was not the case in the 14th century. There was nothing to do. The London Eye hadn't been invented. There was nothing on the TV, nobody could read. You was a peasant, you just sat on the floor in your hovel, surrounded by your own filth, picking away at your boils and scabs, just waiting to die of the plague. It's tedious. They're going to cut the head off a nobleman in public for free. That was brilliant. Like the World Cup final and the Super Bowl rolled into one event. Thousands would gather around a raised wooden platform called the scaffold. They'd spend the morning drinking beer, getting excited, waiting for the main event. The main event would come through the archway there. There would be a lord with his hands bound in front of him, led by us yeoman wardens. We would lead him along the drawbridge, through the bulwark gates to the top of the hill. There we would hand him over to the Sheriff of London. He would mount the scaffold steps, pay the executioner, say something witty and clever to the crowd, then lie down with his neck on a block of oak. The signal would be given, down would come the axe, hopefully, not always, hopefully beheading that fella with one stroke. By law, the head had to be picked up and shown to the crowd. There was a legal proclamation. Behold the head of a traitor, so die all traitors, God save the king. Then everyone would start cheering and chucking their hats up in the air, because there was quite a fun, interactive bit coming up. Because the severed head was rammed onto a pike, a very tall handled spear. It was carried through the streets of London that way, with much merriment, children dancing round it, all the way to London Bridge. London Bridge was the only bridge across the River Thames in those days. There the head would be pulled off the pike and rammed onto a special set of spikes above the gateway entrance to the city. They were there as a warning. No Facebook or Twitter in those days, so you had to have a physical warning. You came to London, your long weekend, put in your stupid suitcase on wheels, you would look up, there would be a row of rotting heads dripping onto the pavement in front of you, and you'd realise we had a zero tolerance policy for traitors here in London. very efficient. I studied all those executions. There is a 100% non-reoffending rate. People have had their head cut off. Now, some people are lazy. That is human nature. We can't change that. They couldn't be bothered to follow the head. They could have a little bit of fun up on the top of the hill with the headless bleeding corpse. The headless corpse was placed on a small handcart. The cart was pushed in and out of the crowd. The crowd were encouraged to press forward and dip their handkerchiefs into the blood. It was meant to bring you good luck and cure illnesses. You didn't do any of those things. You shoved it in your pocket, pulled it out in the pub, and all your mates would be really impressed with the brilliant seat you'd had at the execution. It's very much like having a signed programme by Justin Bieber or someone like that would be today. Now, the headless body was brought down the hill on that cart. It would go along Water Lane, it would turn left through the archway of Traitors Gate, up the steps, be very, very quickly buried in an unmarked grave in the Chapel Royal of St Peter ad Vincula. We today on this tour are going to follow exactly the same route as the headless bleeding corpse and finish our tour standing or sitting above where all those bodies are buried. There's a little treat. Now, before we move off, this is right at the beginning of the season, about our winter season. Things start to ramp up here in the tower, so we always refresh our tour a little bit, depending on changing demographics. I've been working on a big finish for this block. Never used it before, practiced it a lot. I'm going to try it out, see what you think. Just give me a moment just to prepare. Right, let's be heading off.